Okay, welcome back to 1d8 plus 1 Lena Orbs. I'm going to go here, and I shouldn't have gone here type thing. That's the all-famous Paladin mount type thing in that type of sense on page 45 with its increase type thing. There's the Paladin type thing, that's Divine Grace, Lay on Hands, and 2. So that's 2 type thing in that type of sense. That's second level when they start their Lay on Hands. This has been a difficult thing in that type of sense. So from that type thing, these are both kind of the same things, another set ingredients type thing. So that's 2, that's your Paladin level 2 type thing, times your Charisma bonus type thing in that type of sense. So let's say it's 18 Charisma type thing. Once again, a chance to get used to math type thing and that type of thing. From the last video, that was plus 4. So instead, there's 18 type thing in that type of sense. That's the first number. That's 18, and then a 4 modifier type thing in that type of sense. So now that's 4. Now you leave the 4 there type thing in that type of sense, and then you keep the X, and then your Paladin level when that starts is 2. So it's 2, you drop that down into it, and it's 2 times 4 type thing in that type of sense, and that's 8. And that's much like a Cure Light. Now a lot of people in the world can't roll that type of thing in that type of sense, and that's probably why they take bonuses type thing in that type of sense. That's 8. Now in that type of thing, you go to a Cleric. So now in that type of thing, if you strip this character, which is the most important part type thing, a Paladin has 2 operations type thing. One operation type thing is with the sword type thing, but you can take that out, and then in that type of sense, you can leave them with their healing type thing and up it because Paladins are righteousness, and that's 8. Now from that type of 8 type thing, a Cleric, that's at second level type thing in that type of sense. Let's go to a Cleric at first level type thing, which they can't do. Now a Cleric doesn't have 2 operations type thing in that type of sense. They have 1 anemic operation, and anybody who's got 1 anemic operation to somebody who does double type thing in that type of sense is lesser off. Now in that type of thing, that's first level type thing as a Cleric, that's 1. That's 1 type thing there. That's first level, and they've got this 1 plus 1 on their chart type thing, which is 2. So now that's 1 plus 1, that's similar numbers, that's 1 plus 1, and that's 2. Now from 2 type thing in that type of sense, which is hard to imagine type thing, that's 2 spells that they can look up type thing in that type of sense, and they can't. Now in that type of thing, from that, for example, Josen on page 32 and 31 of Cleric type thing, Josen, for example, is a first level Cleric of Palor, chooses good and healing from Palor's domain options as his 2 domains. He gets the granted powers of both as the selected domains. The good domain allows him to cast all spells with the good descriptor plus 1 caster level as if he were 1 level higher as a Cleric as granted power, and it gives him access to protection from evil as a first level domain spell. The healing domain allows him to cast all healing sub-school spells at the Conjuration School at plus 1 caster level as a granted power, and it gives him access to Cure Light Wounds as a first level domain spell. When Josen prepares his spells, he gets 1 first level spell. So now in that type of thing, he had 1 first level spell. He gets 1 first level spell for being a first level Cleric. First level Cleric, which is first level spell. 1 bonus first level spell for having a high wisdom type thing, and a wisdom score of 15, and 1 first level domain spell. And in that type of sense, that's 1, that was 1, and that's 1, and that's 2. That's 3. Now in that was 3, and that was the start of his character type thing, so that was at first level. So now in that, for example, Josen is a first level character, so then as soon as you see the number first type thing, you put 6 type thing, and you put that over there, or you put 3 type thing up at the top type thing in that type of sense. So Josen was a third level character, Cleric type thing in that type of sense. And it didn't say that type thing, it said he was a first level character, and that's the number 1. So in that type of sense, boom, is 1. Now he's got his wisdom 1, his stated 1 type thing, and his domain 1. So he's got his stated, his wisdom, and his domain. That's 1, 2, and 3. Three spells at first level type thing in that type of sense. Now we're going to change that up type thing in that type of sense. Now from that, let's look at there. The domain spell must be 1 of 2 to which he has access, either protection from evil or cure light wounds type thing in that type of sense. So he has to choose in between that. So now if he goes with it, it's or type thing. It's protection from evil or cure light wounds. If he does cure, then he can't have access to that one at that moment type thing, even though that sounds like an evil concept. And then his cure light becomes his first one there in that type of sense. So from that type of thing, you're going to go there, take these ones, that's first, then you turn to that type thing, you turn in the back of the book, in that type of thing, or near back of the book, and, which is right, and all this type of thing has a smarter thing to it type thing in that type of sense, which is right. So from that type of thing, that's Cleric spells, now that's Cleric right next to the word spells, which doesn't exist type thing, and in that type of thing, that's first level Cleric spells type thing in that type of sense, very closely aligned. And that's Bang, Bless, Bless Water, Cause Fear, Command, Comprehend Languages, Cure Light Wounds type thing in that type of sense. Cures 1d8 plus 1 type thing in that type of sense. Another complicated math type thing in that sense. A lot of people think this is 0 for no apparent reason. Now, in that type of thing, that's Cleric type thing in that type of sense. And that was the number 1 type thing in that type of sense times 1 per level type thing. So that's 1 times 1 per level type thing in that type of sense. And your first level type thing, that level and level cancels out type thing, and that's 1 times 1, which equals a 0 bonus as a first level Cleric type thing in that type of sense. It's a 1 bonus type thing at first. That's 1 at first type thing in that type of sense. And that's 1 there type thing in that type of sense. So now, in that, it had 2 numbers type thing, an A plus B with a result type thing. I'm not sure on that type thing. A plus B in a result type thing in that type of sense. And when we do that to the R type thing, so that's an ABR type thing in that type of sense. Now, from that type thing, we write down the baseball inning thing that we come across type thing in a sense. So now, in that type of thing, that's Cure Light Wounds, that's Cures D8 type thing, so I put that in A, D8, and then it says plus, there's a plus in that type of thing, that's plus, and then 1 per level, and we determined that was 1. So it's a D8 plus 1 type thing in that type of sense, and then say somebody rolls an 8 type thing, even though that's the max die type thing in that type of sense, that's your salary type thing, and that's your bonus, and your bonus makes up your salary type thing in that type of sense. It makes that up. So if you were at 40,000 type thing, and if you were at 50,000 is a salary type thing in that type of sense, you know, $10,000 bonus type thing, and then that's 5 over 1 type thing in that type of sense, and that's 5. And so it stays with that because that bonus went into your salary type thing in that type of sense. And that would be 6. 5 plus 1 is 6, and that would be 60,000 type thing in that type of sense. Not 50,000, so that's 60,000 type thing in that type of sense, and 50,000 type thing, and those are both the same word. 6 and 50 type thing, or sound similar type thing. One starts with an S and F type thing, and that's S, I, X type thing in that type of sense, and that's F, I, F type thing in that type of sense, and they're exactly the same type thing in that type of thing. 6 and 5th, and then the rest of it type thing, that's T, and in that type of sense, that's T type thing in that type of sense. 60 and 50 type thing are the same exact thing, and they're not. So in that type of thing, that's Cure Light Wounds type thing in that type of sense, and that's here. And let's go back and get level real quick, and that's page 31. Let's see if I can do that there. It's page 31. Another complicated thing type thing in motion, which is not in motion and not soon enough. That's spells per day type thing, which makes up a Cleric type thing in that type of sense. That spells per day, and that makes up the Cleric type thing. And then from here, there's a level type thing that's first, and that goes to 20 type thing in that type of sense. So now this goes to 9. This goes to 9 type thing in that type of sense, and that's from 0 to 9 type thing, but there's other different spells type thing associated with that. So sometimes I get rid of that 9 type, that 0, and just say from 1 to 20 or 1 to 9 type thing there. And in that type of sense, that was 1 to 9. And from there type thing in that type of sense, that's first level here type thing, which it isn't, and it goes to 20 type thing right then and there. So that's 9 over 20 type thing, and those are both the exact same numbers type thing. This is a 10-sided die type thing. It also has a 20 capability on it type thing in that type of sense. And so from there type thing, you take that type thing in that type of sense, even though once again score and then modifier type thing, score then modifier, that's the same number, first number then the second number type thing in that type of sense, and it keeps the second number. This is dispel check up to 20 type thing in that type of sense. The first one's to 10, and then the greater dispel type thing is to 20 type thing, which is the end of this die type thing in that type of sense. Pretty complicated stuff type thing going on there, which it isn't type thing at all. Now from there type thing, now we go back to Josen type thing, or in that type of sense, the +1s without Ritual Blessing and Sacred Healing, and your caster domain type thing in that type of sense. Not very complicated. So now in that type of thing, we are at first level type thing here, and then we had first, I've got to switch out numbers type thing because I just did that. That's first, and first for domain type thing in that type of sense, and we'll use first for our Cleric level type thing here. And I really shouldn't have done that either type thing. Let's go with first, and that's first level, that's first type thing and that type of thing. That's first, and that's first. That's kind of hard to read. That's first, and first. Now from that type of thing, that was a D8 type thing in that type of sense, and it had a +1 type thing to it for your cleric level. Now on top of your cleric level is your domain level type thing in that type of sense. And that's boom, right then and there. Now the healing domain says we'll give you a +1 to any conjuration healing spell, even if it's outside the domain. As long as it's still a healing spell, we'll still zap that with another extra 1 because we're that awesome. Oh, a little wiggle. So that's 8 + 1 + 1 type thing in that type of sense. And from that, because you look up regular cure light type thing in that type of sense, which is wrong on that. And from that type of thing, that's cure light type thing there. And that's cure light wounds, and it's also a conjuration healing spell. So it also gets a +1, even if it's not in the domain type thing in that type of sense, which is hard to imagine. Now in that type of thing, that's a domain, you cast healing spells at +1 caster level. And that was on your regular list. That was on your regular list type thing in that type of sense. So that can't be affected by it type thing. And that's right. And so now you turn to that type of thing, and in that's Cure Light Wounds on the regular one, which is a Conjuration Healing type thing, and it gets +1 type thing in that type of sense, along with its Cleric 1 type thing, and that's 8, 1, and 1, with the D8 points of damage +1. Now it's going to restore the damage that's on that person's body type thing, 1 D8 point of restored or cured damage type thing, +1 point per caster level. So that's D8 +1, now plus another 1 for 10. So it's 8 + 2 type thing, and that's 10. And then that was the first one type thing in that type of sense. That was the first one outside the domain one at first level type thing in that type of sense, which means it counts for all 3 of them type thing in that needs. And so now in that type of thing, that's D8 type thing in that type of sense here. And from there, that's 1, and that's also 1, and that's D8 type thing here. And then that's 1 and 1. And that's here, and that's 1. And that's 2 type thing in that type of sense. And then that's the domain 1 type thing in that type of sense. Or that's the general 1, and that's your wisdom bonus 1 of 15 for Joes and type thing. And then the domain 1 type thing. And then that's also with your healing, your cleric level, and your healing domain. And also it has a D8 in it type thing in that type of sense. So now, in that type of thing, that was the stated spell. That's their given daily type thing in that type of sense. I know the sacrilegious type thing in that type of thing. Your wisdom bonus. And in that, that's the one for your job. Then that's your wisdom bonus because you have more wisdom than other people in your job. And in that one, that's your domain 1 type thing because you took the healing domain and can add that. If you took the ocean and community domain, if they didn't have cure light amongst their spells type thing, you wouldn't have that. And if you had a 10 wisdom, you wouldn't have that one either, and you would have 1 spell instead of 3. But instead, you have 3 because you're so George Clooney ER on NBC type thing in that type of sense. I think it was. I don't think it was with Chicago Hope type thing or that other Dr. Hope type thing with Mandy Patinkin on CBS. I think it was on ER, it was on NBC. So from that type of thing, that's boom type thing in that type of sense. So if you don't take that domain and healing domain, boom, can't get that healing bonus 1 type thing. And then that's your base 1 type thing in that type of sense. I think they call it the base or the daily type thing in that. Let's see, chooses. And then domain allows him to cast all spells +1 caster. Access to cure light wounds. When chosen person gets 1 first level spell for being a first level cleric. So that's for being a first level cleric. That's for your wisdom bonus of having a 15 wisdom, and that one's for your domain, choosing the healing domain. Now, if you want to choose the protection domain and trickery type thing, you still get this domain 1 here type thing in that type of sense. So in that type of thing, that's boom there, and from that type of thing, you go there, and that's not a process of elimination type thing. So like the water domain, that's obscuring mist, and the travel domain, that's long strider for its 1. And the obscuring mist, it's 1 type thing, and that's the extra cure light 1 type thing from the healing domain type thing in that type of sense. That's 1, that's cure light wounds, and that's another D8 type thing, and so that one you get type thing right then and there. And so you get to keep that cure light type thing, but you don't have a wisdom bonus, so you don't get to keep that one, so you do 1. But wait, I've got a 15 wisdom, so I've got my stated and my wisdom, and then I also have the healing domain, so I get another one, so I get 3 of them type thing at D8 +1 +1 type thing. And that's D8 +2, D8 +2, and D8 +2 for all 3 of them type thing. So that's 3D8 +6 type thing in that type of sense. So that's 2 times 3 type thing, and that's 6, and that's 3D8 +6. Well, thanks for listening, and have a great one.